Hey guys, thank you for following this YouTube channel. Today we want to start a series on BODMAS, BIDMAS, PEMDAS. Okay, and so when we have equations or set of operations in an equation, it will be rather confusing to know where to begin. Hence the need for an order. Okay, and let me explain this. Say we have 3 times 4 bracket open 3 plus 2 close bracket, say maybe 2 plus 3 and say plus plus 3, then 9 divided by 3. You have something like this. Okay, how do you begin? What will you start out with? In fact, there are some questions that even involve squares and about 2 to 3 types of even brackets. Okay, I will encourage you to look at arithmetic extras 1 and 2 if you are following these BODMAS equations. As a matter of fact, please look at all the videos. It has been packaged. Look at all the videos on arithmetic, assuming you do not have a good background on them. So just look at all those videos. But if you already have a background on minus, subtraction, multiplication, division, then you can just go right ahead to look at the video on arithmetic extra 1 and arithmetic extra 2. Okay, to do you good if you want to really understand this series. Okay, now when we have questions like this, it's rather confusing how we proceed in solving this question. Would we rather just go right ahead and say 3 times 4 and so on and so forth like that till we arrive at an answer? If we do that, you see there are some people who would rather maybe divide first before adding and so on and so forth. And this is the reason why we have this set of rules that helps or guides us on how to solve questions that involve multiple operations. Okay, and so those set of rules that helps us to solve questions like this, we have BODMAS, we have BIDMAS, we have PEMDAS. Okay, and so for our focus in this class, it will be order of operations. Order of operations. Okay, let me make it bold. Okay, so that will be our focus for this class, the order of operations. All right, and so now that we know that the BODMAS are a set of rules, BODMAS, BIDMAS, PEMDAS, right, are a set of rules guiding us to perform operations in an order. They are a set of rules guiding us to perform operations in an order. So the next question we want to ask ourselves is, what is BODMAS? So I'm going to be explaining this. B in BODMAS stands for brackets. B stands for bracket. O stands for order. D stands for divide or division. M stands for multiply. A stands for add. And then S stands for subtract. Okay, if you look at the first letters of this, it all means BODMAS. The next is BIDMAS. Okay, BID. The BID here also stands for brackets. And then the O stands, the I in this case is I. stands for index, and the D stands for divide, the M I mean, stands for multiply, the A stands for add, the S stands for subtract, and then we have PEMDAS. P stands for parentheses, and E stands for exponents, M multiply, D divide, A add, and then S subtract. Alright, so these are what the acronym stands for. And what this means is that when you have a question that is as confusing as something like this, okay, as confusing as something like this, right? What you need to do is to follow this order. The first thing to do is, if that question have a bracket, you solve the question within the bracket first. And if it has powers, that is, it involves squares, something like 2 raised to the power of 2, 3 raised to the power of 3, the bracket is raised to the power of 2, and so on and so forth, you consider that next after the bracket. Then you consider the divide, then you consider the multiply, then you consider add, then you consider subtraction. Okay, it's just similar way for brackets, index, divide, multiply, add, subtract. The same thing goes for parentheses, exponents, multiply, divide, add, subtract. However, there are a few things I would like to talk about here. The first is that parentheses is a type of bracket, okay? And so the B in BODMAS and the B in BIDMAS and the P in PEMDAS all mean brackets, okay? And we have 3 types of brackets, 3 types. Number 1 is these brackets, and it is called parentheses. Number 2 is this bracket, and it is called curly bracket. Number 3 is this bracket, and it is called square bracket, square. Okay, these are the 3 types of brackets that are always used in questions that involve either mixed operations and so on and so forth, right? Especially in mixed operations, okay? And so these are the types of bracket. In cases like these, you would always find the parentheses. Assuming you have questions that involve maybe 2 brackets, you will find parentheses first, then you will find the curly, and before you find the square bracket. So in cases like that, the first thing you solve is the questions that are within the parentheses, then the questions within the curly bracket, the operations finally within the square bracket. Okay, if you find 2, you start with this one followed by this one. If you find 3, you start with this one followed by this one, then this one. Okay, now in doing this, sometimes within the bracket you would then have division, and you have multiplication, and so on and so forth. You would have to follow within the brackets there, you will have to follow the rules of the BODMAS. That is, you have to follow order, divide, multiply, and so on. Assuming you have a bracket containing the 2 raised to the power of 2, say maybe plus 3, then divide by so, and then multiply by so, and so on and so forth. You will first of all, within that bracket, you will first of all solve the 2 raised to the power of 2 because it has power, and order comes before any other thing. And so the rules are contained within that parenthesis, within the curly bracket, within the square bracket you find. Okay, you are solving that bracket first, but you are following that rule. Okay, I believe that is properly explained. All right, now how about the O and the I, which is the index, and the E, which is the exponents that are found? What we need to do is that anytime we have questions containing this whole thing means powers, okay? Questions that have to do with of, order, exponent, powers. Just like I've been stating, you have x raised to the power of 2. Maybe you have 2 or 3 raised to the power of maybe 2, or even raised to the power of 3, and so on and so forth. A bracket raised to the power of something, these, all of them, you will solve them first or next after solving the equations or operations in the bracket. All right. And so another very important thing to note is this: anytime we have questions containing division and multiplication, all right, anytime we have questions containing division and multiplication, the approach becomes a little bit different. You will solve that question starting from your left to your right. If you have this question, this kind of thing in sequence, you have multiplication, division, or you have division, multiplication first and division. The order does not matter. If the question comes in such a manner that this thing follows in sequence, you will solve it from left to right. You will first of all, you will follow from left to right. You do not follow because maybe they say BODMAS, then you have D in BODMAS coming first. And because you found multiplication in this sequence first, you want to jump it to go and divide. No, you will start from left to right. Okay? And so if you also have addition and subtraction, and they follow in sequence, right, you are also going to solve from left to right, from left to right, and that's how you solve questions like that. We are going to be seeing examples, so don't worry, it will further explain what we are saying. Now, where would you find BODMAS or use BODMAS? BIDMAS, PEMDAS. You will use them in balanced equations. You will use that also in fractions, which usually leads to simplification. Okay, or fractions. You will use BODMAS or BIDMAS or PEMDAS in comparing numbers or fractions. You will use it also in mixed fractions. All right. And so I think you can use it also anytime you find questions involving multiple operations. Okay, you can use BODMAS, BIDMAS, or PEMDAS. Okay, that's just the idea. But this video is going to be divided into about maybe 5 parts or so. We are going to look at balanced equations. We are going to look at simplification of fractions. We are going to be looking at comparing numbers or fractions. We are going to look at mixed fractions. Mixed operations. All right. In today's video is just about order of operations. And so let me give you some examples that will further explain what we have discussed. Look at this example 1. Let's call it example 1. Example 1. So you have equation like this. Open bracket 6 minus 2 close bracket times 8 divided by 4. Okay, you have a question like this. What did our BODMAS say we do? Let me put the BODMAS on top so that you can follow. BODMAS says that we work on what is inside the bracket first. So the first thing we do is we say 6 minus 2 because it's contained in the bracket, and that will give us 4. And so we go ahead and say times 8 divided by 4. Okay. You notice here now that in the BODMAS we have division first before multiplication. However, the sequence here, multiplication and division, follow a sequence. And because they follow a sequence, I will not go and divide 8 by 4 and say 8 divided by 4. No. I'm going to multiply and follow from left to right. I'm going to solve from left to right. And so I'm simply going to say 4 times 8, which will give me 32. And then I say divide by 4, and this will be equals to 8, which is my answer. Let's see example 2. Okay. Say we have 6 plus 3 times 4 divided by 3. 6 plus 3 times 4 divided by 3. If you look at these, we have a plus sign. We have a plus sign. However, the multiplication and division follow a sequence. And so I am going to follow that sequence and solve from left to right without minding that division should come first. And so this would be 6 plus 3 times 4 is 12. Divide by 3. Divide by 3. Okay. And so that I can have 6 plus 12 divided by 3 is 4. And 6 plus 4 is equals to 10. And this becomes my answer. Okay. This becomes my answer. Let's take another example. Let's take another example, a very similar example. Let's say we have 6. This will be example 3. And I think the last example, 6 divided by 3 times 3 minus 4 plus 2. Okay. You can see that the division and multiplication follow a sequence. And so I'm going to solve from left to right. 6 divided by 3 is 2, leaving me with times 3 minus 4 plus 2, right? And 2 times 3 is 6 minus 4 plus 2. Okay. and I can perform the plus first before before subtraction, because subtraction will be last. And what we have there is 6 first, and then we have minus 4 plus 2. I asked you to look at the videos on extras 1 and 2. We've covered this already. So minus 4 plus 2 will be equal to minus 2. And 6 minus 2 will be equals to 4. And this will be your answer. Alright? There will be videos on mixed operations which will treat more difficult equations containing brackets, containing exponents, and so on and so forth. There will be videos on balanced equations and so on and so forth. Stay tuned. I encourage you to follow this video if you follow this series if you haven't done so already, and also follow this channel. Please share, like, comment, and so that it helps the algorithm, and then also encourages us to continue to bring good videos as this. Thank you so much for following. Bye for now.